In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a scientific table using Microsoft Word. Now, the rules for drawing scientific tables, I'm sure that you're familiar with, you've probably seen them before, are as follows. All right, tables need a title. We need to give a meaningful title that tells the audience what this data is even all about. Okay, it must have ruled lines, it must be enclosed. Now, because we're dealing with a computer, these two are actually going to automatically be achieved, so I don't really need to worry about that while I'm using Microsoft Word. Okay, rule 4, each column needs to have a heading. Okay, number 5, the independent variable, that's the one I'm intentionally changing, goes in the first column. The dependent variable, the one I'm deliberately testing, goes in the second column. And then column headings must include the units in brackets, right? We never put units in anywhere except the very first row, which is the column headings. Okay, so keeping this experiment in mind, I've been going through this experiment, looking at it from different perspectives, and now we're looking at it for, imagine that we've got some data from this experiment, okay? And how could I put that data into a scientific table? Well, I've provided a template for you to basically fill in. Okay, you just need to fill it in correctly, and it's incredibly straightforward. So all you need to do is double click on this Word document file. So double click it, and that will open this up. Now you'll see that the template says that you are viewing this and you can't edit it, right? It's read only. To edit this, you need to save your own copy. So you click File, Save As, and then save it onto your OneDrive, okay? And why do we save it onto OneDrive? So that it automatically backs up and we don't lose any of the data. Okay, so onto your OneDrive. Now yours will look a little bit different to mine, okay? And I'm gonna save it with my Year 8 Science. Okay, now that I've saved this on my Year 8 Science, I can now edit it. So if we go back to the OneNote, what would be the title? Well, what are we doing in this experiment? We're changing the type of liquid used to water the plant, and then we're measuring, or we're testing rather, the height that the plants grow as a result of that. So what could be a good name to give my data that is meaningful? Well, let's think. Okay, so we've got something to do with height that a plant grows. And then it's got something to do with different liquids. Okay, so in fact, we could possibly say, here we go, the height that a plant grows from different, maybe from different liquids. There we go. Okay, that's not too bad. You probably could do a little bit better, but your titles might be a little long. That's not too bad, as long as we can understand exactly what the data is saying. Okay, so if we go back to our checklist, table needs a title. Well, we've done that. Tick. Okay. Must have ruled lines. Well, that's a given. It must be enclosed. That's a given because we're using a computer. Okay. Number 4, each column needs to have a heading. So if we go back to the template, you can see that we've got this heading, the independent variable, and then this heading, the dependent variable. Well, I should probably just replace those with my independent and dependent variables. In that case, I'll go back to my experiment, and I can see that my independent variable is the type of liquid used to water the plant. So I'm just going to put that in. Okay, so type of liquid used to water the plant. Now, does this have units? Does the type of liquid have units? No, it doesn't. So I can actually delete that. And I'm deleting it because it doesn't have any units. In that case, because it doesn't have any units, right, it doesn't involve any numbers, I know that this is qualitative. My independent variable is qualitative. Okay, it has words. All right, so my independent variable is labeled there. Now I need to label my dependent variable. Okay, so I go back to my experiment. What's my dependent variable? It's the height that the plant grows. So I'm going to put that in where it says dependent variable. The height the plant grows. Okay. So let's go back to the checklist. Going back to the checklist, each column has a heading. Okay. Does each of my columns have a heading? Well, I've got a heading on my first column. I've got a heading on my second column, right? Imagine this is kind of like one big column. Yes, they do. So then that's a tick. Okay, I've done that. All right. Next, the independent variable goes in the first column. Have I done that? Well, yes, I have. I put the independent variable in this first column. Very good. Okay, so that's a tick. I've done that. Next, the dependent variable goes in the second column. Have I done that? Well, yes. I've put my dependent variable in the second column. This second column, all right, it's a very big column. I've kind of divided it up a little bit. But it's the second column and the dependent variable has gone there. So I have completed that. Okay. And lastly, the column headings must include the units in brackets. Okay, so I've already said that type of liquid doesn't have any units, but what about the height that the plant grows? Well, that probably has units. So if I have a look at my data, I can see, right, I've collected this in centimeters. Those are my units. So I'm just going to put centimeters in the brackets here. And I need to make sure that I don't put centimeters anywhere else in this table, right? Only at the top here in the brackets, nowhere else. All right, so now all we need to do is put the data in. Okay, we just need to put all of the data in. So what are the different liquids that I used? I used Coke, I used orange juice and water. So I'm going to put that in. Coke, orange juice, and water. Okay, I probably should have used another one, but I didn't. So for this case, I'm just going to remove that. I'm going to delete that and shift the cells left. Okay. Next, I need to add in all of my trials. Now, if you notice, this only has 3 trials, but if I have a look at my data, I've taken 1, 2, 3, 4 times. I did the experiment 4 times. So I'm actually going to need to increase this. How do I do that? Well, we go over to trial 3 here. Just click anywhere on these boxes, and then you go up to table layout. You click on that, and then insert to the right. Okay, when you insert to the right, we've added a new column to the right of trial 3, and we can call this, all right, and I'm just going to format it a little bit nicer by clicking the align to center. And I'm going to call it trial 4. And you'll notice up the top here, the formatting's gone a little strange. It's okay. I can fix that up by clicking and dragging to highlight both cells here, and then all we have to do is click merge cells. There we go. So now I have 4 trials. Okay, and you could do the same thing on and on if you have more trials. But hopefully you have at least 3. Hopefully you don't have any fewer than 3. Okay, but if you have more, you just do that same step over and over again to increase those columns. Okay. So now I just need to copy the data in. And to make this a little bit easier for myself, I'm actually going to copy this, and then I'm going to paste it in my Word document just so I can I don't need to keep swapping screens. Okay, so starting with this first line, all right, I have 23 centimeters for the height for the first trial, then 24.5, then 23.2, and finally 22.9. Okay, that's my first column done. Now I go on to my, first row done rather, first independent variable done. Now I go into my second row, my orange juice. So I start off with 27.6. 26.5, then I have 27.2, and then I have 26.1. Okay, and that's the second row done. Last row with the water, same thing. I start with 32.2, then I go 30.9, then 31.4, and finally 31.8. Okay, I've put in all of my data. But now I need to work out what the average is. Okay, I need to work out what the average is. Now, to work out the average, all you need to do is add up each of your trials and then divide it by however many trials there are. Okay, so in this case, I would add up 23 plus 24.5 plus 23.2 plus 22.9. Okay, I would add each of them up, and then because there are 4 trials, I would divide it by 4. If there were 3 trials, I divide it by 3. If you have 5 trials, divide it by 5, and so on. Okay, and because I know a lot of you use your laptop, I'm just going to show you the easy way to use your laptop as the calculator, but it's better practice to use your actual calculator. So I just clicked Command Space to open this up. And because I have 4 trials, I know that I'm going to divide it by 4 at the end. And I'll just put these brackets in so that it just makes it a little bit easy for me to see. And I can basically put all my data in at once. So I can go 23 plus 24.5 plus 23.2 plus 22.9. All right, if you don't put your brackets in, order of operations, it won't give you the correct answer. Okay, so your answer should be, it should be in between the highest and the lowest value, right? If it's not in between those two, then you've done something wrong. Okay, so this is 23.4, so I can just put in 23.4. Right, and I just do the same thing. Right, I can delete these and I'll do the same thing for orange juice. 27.6 plus 26.5 plus 27.2 plus 26.1. Okay, and now I have 26.85. 26.85. Now, notice how I've got 2 decimal places here, and almost everywhere else I've got 1 decimal place. Well, to keep it consistent, I'm actually going to round this to 1 decimal place. Okay, so 26.85 would, if I rounded it to 1 decimal place, would just be 26.9. Okay, and in that same train of thought, 23, I actually should write 23.0. Okay, just to make sure everything is to 1 decimal place. All right, one more. Water. Let's add in all those values. 32.2 plus 30.9 plus 31.4 plus 31.8. And we're left with 31.35. All right, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to round it to the nearest first decimal place, which would make it 31.4. Okay. And that's it. So now I've completed my table, right? It's on OneDrive, so it automatically saves in case anything happens. And now all I need to do is take a screenshot. Okay, so I'm just going to click away to get rid of those little boxes that came up. And then as per the video previously where I explained how to insert photos or screenshots, I'm just going to take a screenshot. So Command Shift Control 4. I then drag from one corner to the other to take, and then let go to take the screenshot. I then go back to my Microsoft OneNote, okay, and then where it asks me to put the results table, I then just click Command V to paste it. Now that's pretty small, so I'm just going to increase the size so that Misty Ann can read it nice and clearly.